Hi, I'm Hans Sebastian. Welcome to the first of a series of videos that I will make about software engineering. In this video, I will talk about how to conduct an effective code review. First, I'd like to talk about the goals of doing a code review. In my experience, there are three goals of a code review. One is to validate requirements, second is to improve code quality, and third is to learn something new. The immediate goal of a code review is to validate requirements. Doing code review is probably one of the first opportunities for someone else to review a concrete work of a software engineer. When done early in the development process, by spending 30 minutes reading code, we can validate business requirements that have been specified by a product manager, and as well as engineering requirements that have been discussed by your tech lead. Therefore, if there's any issue, we can solve it much earlier and much quicker compared to when by having the code deployed to remote environments, exercised by automated tests, and verified by QA engineers. The second and the more important purpose of a code review is to improve code quality. A high quality code typically ensures that your software will continue to function 6 months, a year, or even 5 years from now, when your team, your company, and its business is much bigger. And therefore, it will determine that your work has the potential to make a greater impact to the business and to future users. Now, there are automated tools that can improve code quality, but I think reading code is the only way to ensure that programming principles are correctly applied, that technical design and architecture are consistently followed. Your code is easily read, easily understood, and therefore much more likely to be utilized. And that's what it means to have quality code. The first two goals focus on the output of the software, while the third goal focuses on the people in your team, and that is code review creates a learning opportunity. In most cases, software development is driven by the business. It can be carefully planned and structured, and therefore tends to be fast-paced. So it may not be possible to have separate training or coaching session. But by submitting code for a review, and when the feedback is properly given, you're essentially getting access to personalized technical mini session that is embedded in the development process. And what's great is based on your real work. And so each time you may learn about an advanced coding technique or a cool feature in your technology, or simply getting familiarized with the convention and the patterns used by your team. So don't miss out on the opportunity. Speaking about the people in your team, aside from the goals that I've just mentioned earlier, which can be obvious when we're doing it, there are, I would call, positive side effects to code review. There are 6 positive side effects that I can think of. First, it promotes openness on what everyone is working on. Code review typically involves 2 or more people, so it promotes teamwork. When a knowledge is being shared, it raises the collective standards in your team's technical skills. When doing code review properly, it promotes discipline. And to the reviewers, it promotes effective communication. And finally, code authors, feedback can create encouragement, which can be highly rewarding. Let's talk about the tool to use for code review. There's actually only one tool, and that is a standard feature of any cloud code versioning service like GitHub, GitLab, etc. In GitHub, which I've personally used, it's called pull requests. This is probably very obvious to all of you, but I have seen developers ask people to code review by sending code snippets over emails, chats, or even worse, in a screenshot, which I don't think will work well because code changes will just be hard to read It's hard for people to give comments and to track updates or changes to the code. So stop sending code snippets and start using a proper tool in GitHub. It's called pull requests. With pull requests, you can basically show the changes that you want to merge to another branch. So it allows people to comment and eventually approve the changes. Pull requests are great because of several reasons. First, code changes are shown in colors because the programming language has been recognized from the files being changed. So for the reviewer, it's already easier to read. And then it only shows your code changes, which means we know which lines exactly from which files are being changed. So identifying changes is also quick. GitHub's pull requests allows you to expand surrounding code, which I also find helpful sometimes. When creating a pull request, it allows you to add description. And this is important because it allows you to explain what your code changes is all about. And it usually allows you to write it in a lightweight markup language like Markdown. So it's still freeform, but can look nicer. GitHub's pull request actually allows a template to be used in when adding a description, for those who want to standardize the way the description is being written for your team or your code base. For both the reviewer and the code author, you can make comments in line, which means you can put the comments next to the specific lines of code. So it's easier to tie the comments to the code. Other benefits include the fact that we can see all the events that have happened in the code review process, who have been requested to review, who have commented, what are the commits that have happened after the comments, who have rejected or who have approved. So all the historical activities are centralized and tracked. And finally, it can be integrated with continuous integration or CI jobs. What this means is that at the same time, while you're code reviewing, you can check whether the changes have passed testing or other automated checks that you have. So I suggest, if you haven't already, do your code reviews in features like GitHub's pull requests or something similar. Previously, I spoke about the goals, the positive side effects, and the tool for doing code review. Now, I want to talk about the different ways to do it. And there are 3 approaches. Number 1 is for the code author and the code reviewer to do the code review at their separate times, or what I call this asynchronously. This works well for small code changes, say a few lines of code in 2 or 3 different files, for bug fixes, or in some cases medium-sized code changes. But this can only work well when the purpose of the change is clear-cut, when it's very well described such that it requires very little explanation. This is usually done when it's not yet convenient for the code author and the reviewer to sit and look at the code changes together. But be very careful for medium to large size code changes. This is usually not very efficient, as there can be a lot of time wasted waiting when there are many back and forth conversation. Number 2 is when the code author and the code reviewer conducting the code review together at the same time. I call this synchronously. So sitting side by side or in a screen sharing conference call. In contrast to the first approach, this works well for medium to large size code changes, such as adding a new functionality to an existing system or enhancement to an existing system. Doing it this way, both parties need to find and schedule a time together. But since conversation can happen in real time, the code review process tends to be faster. Doing it this way though, keep in mind to still create the pull requests, still write the description to the pull request well, and to document the points discussed as PR comments. So tracking and documenting the process is still consistent with the other approaches. It's just a variation of approach number 2, but done in a group meeting. This is usually for a new code base or for major changes in the critical business workflow that can have many implications to other subsystems, or perhaps major changes in the framework which affect how your team will write code moving forward. So this is suitable when you want many people to weigh in on the code changes and get majority approval on it. The way it's done is very similar to approach number 2, but the effect is you get more eyes on the review. In my experience, the most effective way to do code review is to use the pull request feature or similar that is integrated in your code versioning system. I recommend arrange a time to sit together with your reviewers, and meanwhile, prepare a descriptive pull request and have your reviewers have a quick look and put initial comments at their own time before the session. Clarify and discuss as much major points as possible during the session. Once all addressed, asynchronously continue with the pull requests with the code review process with the remaining time that you have. So in summary, the code review process is a fast way to validate your business requirements against the software that is being built. It's an important step in improving your code's quality for your team's productivity. And it's the best opportunity to keep on learning technical skills. Aside from the technical benefit, it indirectly trains us to grow our soft skills that will help us grow in our career in the tech industry. That's my take on what code review is all about. Thank you so much for listening and watching. In my next videos, I'm going to go into more details on how to do code review more effectively. It will probably be 2 videos, where one I will focus on the code author's point of view and the other one on the reviewer's side. So stay tuned.